Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Cat's Track. We post an interview with an amazing Canadian each weekday for your daily inspiration. Today, I would like to introduce you to one of my dearest friends, Randy Ferguson. Randy was born in Thunder Bay and loves living in Calgary and Edmonton equally. He has an amazing 23-year-old named Brittany. My experience of Randy is that he's passionate about building community, and he loves good food and good wine. Yet another reason why I love him. He is an inspirational leader and selfless philanthropist. Thank you for all that you do, Randy.
Oh, thank you.
And thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. This is a great way to spend a stormy afternoon.
It sure is. I agree. Always so good to see you. May we go ahead and start on the questions that I sent you?
Sure.
Awesome. So the first one, what has been your greatest challenge in the last 2 months?
Well, as just for the sake of your listeners, I'm the president of a real estate development and management company. The challenge in the last few months has been very much about extending help to businesses who have lost their revenue, and try to do so without actually putting our company in at risk. So each decision we make when we reach out to help a small business that we're hosting as a customer is to understand and look out at the impact of that help and how it will affect also us. So we're kind of all in it together. On the commercial side, as many people know, the federal government made a gesture to help small business with the cooperation of the landlords. The gesture, unfortunately, it's simply a broken model that doesn't address the nuances of offering that kind of help to a tenant, including things like defaulting on debt coverage ratios with your mortgages. It's a Keynesian effect, offering the program that the federal government had on the table, and that resulted in many landlords across the country backing away from that and finding other ways to help their customers. So that has been a really big challenge, offering the financial help when it's needed and being able to do it in such a way that we don't put the future of our company at risk and that we understand the future impacts. And we're doing that all in the face of not knowing what's coming next or for how long the current situation exists. So very challenging, and we have to all be very careful.
I can't imagine, Randy. Can we go off script for a second? I'm thinking of something that I'm feeling compelled to ask. You love Calgary and Edmonton equally. Could you tell us, in your opinion, because of the expertise that you've had in both cities, is there a difference with how Calgary and Edmonton might be affected with this current situation?
I don't think there is a material difference as to how it will be affected. I think there will be a difference in outcome. I think people are working from home, people are keeping their physical distance, people are being respectful. Generally, people are being kinder, and I see all of those things in both cities. But I think because of the economic foundation in each of the cities, the outcome of this is going to be felt differently. So Edmonton, which is the capital and has a lot of its employment comes from government, from medical, health, the health industry, as well as education. There is an agricultural business that is more widely spread. Calgary, as you know, is the de facto Western Canadian head office. It has a vastly higher count of office workers. Where we're going to start to see some impacts. And who's coming back to work when this is all over? Both because are the businesses still there? Are there new cultures that are going to come out of that? It will be more felt from an office perspective in Calgary than it will in Edmonton.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And the next question with your 3 things that you would like to share with everyone.
Absolutely. So, you know, uh, I sure hope that my colleagues out there and my friends in business really went to school during this last few months, because I certainly did. Um, One of the things that I've been collecting has been empirical data around productivity. So the number one thing that I have been able to ascertain is there has been a significant drop in productivity. One exception, which I still find fascinating and I'm going to study more closely, is a large international engineering firm sent their people to work from home. They have offices in both of the big cities in Alberta and all over the world. Their productivity went up tenfold. Now, that is very much an outlier compared to everything else I've looked at, where empirical data is coming back showing a productivity drop as much as 30%. I know that in my own world, I've seen that productivity drop. Um, I've seen people turn their homes into their home office and not like it. That their respite has now become a place that they have to include work. That everything from the ergonomics of the chair they sit in to the power of the connection that they're making with their colleagues, the manner in which they have to now interface and interact, especially when people are handling workflow and passing off workflow. It's been a big education, and that education continues. I think the other thing that has been very interesting, and we've all experienced this, that in people in their effort to want to take care of us, if we're out and necessarily we have to go and buy groceries, there's somebody at the grocery store. But what is that is helping. But what is interesting is how people acclimatize to that responsibility of looking after other people. Most of it, and interestingly enough, has been quite brusque. You will stand on that orange dot. I was at the Apple store yesterday, and that's what I got. Put on this mask, stand on that orange dot till somebody comes to get you. And it just felt so bizarre. I mean, we have willingly given up a lot of our freedoms in service of getting rid of this virus, of helping the world resolve a pandemic. And it reminds me of an army, when the army takes over and someone is given a very specific task. They execute on that task in a very perfunctory way. No bad intentions. It's just what happens. So, it starts off with people with having a feeling of compassion and empathy, but it turns into something that they then become immune to by necessity. So now it's like, I haven't got time to tell you, please stand on the orange dot, damn it. So that's been also an education and behavior and I'm looking forward in the rearview mirror to learn a little more about that as the experts start to weigh in on just what that happened. And I'm sure it's going to be given a name, like, pandemic PTSD. I don't know, but it'll be given a name.
For sure.
So the third thing, and this is something that I've come to a conclusion, I've been straw polling since February. And I ask every single one of my employees, I've asked my friends, I've asked the clerks in the grocery store, the lady that didn't want to serve me at McDonald's, I've asked everybody this question. If you had a choice to work from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, or from 8 to 6, Monday to Thursday, what would be your choice? Every single person without exception jumped on 8 to 6. What that tells me is that this isolation, this move away from home has got people thinking about the value of their time. And part of that value is it also has them thinking about family. It has them thinking about their personal health. It has them thinking about their own contribution and productivity. And people believe that they can be more productive by putting in the same number of hours in a 4-day week and have a 3-day weekend to enjoy with family, to have that extra day. Now, there are people, it doesn't matter what their official hours are, they're going to work that Friday anyway and into the weekend because that's who they are and that's how they're built and that's part of their passion. But I believe that what will come from this and what should come from this is the beginnings of a 4-day work week on the North American continent. Now, when I think it through, and I'm, again, anxious to learn more, I've begun to collect data because I want to put together a very strong business case. But if I think about some of the information I've got back, sick days go down.
Sure.
There's no longer any real need for flex days.
Right.
That people's productivity go up, and so do their happiness, and so does their personal health. They're more rested. They're clear thinking. They're more about there's a ramp up of work each day. There's a peak where the work gets done and a ramp down. That extra time is contributed to elongating the peak of productivity. So I am very excited about that. And I intend to be one of the companies in real estate that will lead that 4-day week.
Very interesting. Wow. Very progressive, Randy. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
May I also ask then, when you have a large team like you do, would you split it up where the ones that want to work Monday to Thursday and then others would work Tuesday to Friday?
Well, what we did to safeguard the team and part of our business continuity plan was we split our team in half and sent half the team home for 2 weeks and half the team stayed at the office, and then we rotated. So because of the situation, had to ensure that we had a lot of people cross-trained. So, for example, my managers can't take the day off if it's the first of the month and we have to collect the rent. If we need to report, there are periods of time. So I'm also managing how dynamically we can be aware of who's here and who's not. But absolutely, you're correct. A Tuesday to Friday or a Monday to Thursday 4-day week is can be in the offing if you plan well and execute well.
Very good. Love it. Very creative. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
And then the last one is the what's next or legacy or good news story that you want to share?
Well, one of the things that got me so excited about what was thrown at us, and I was pretty grumpy about the loss of some of my personal freedoms, and I think we all were. I miss my friends. I miss you. And, we'll see each other closer than 6 feet again soon, I'm sure. But what I became really excited about was innovation. I saw innovation, particularly in Calgary and Edmonton, because I'm close to the markets, coming from all corners. I have a friend who has a t-shirt manufacturing plant in Calgary. He pivoted almost immediately and started making surgical masks. I'm sorry, that's the improper term, but face masks with a specialized material. He was amongst the first to make a major donation of masks to New Jersey when they ran into their crisis, when their pandemic turned to a crisis, and was able to pivot his company. No one ordered any of his t-shirts during this pandemic, but he can't keep up with the orders for masks.
Wow.
We watch distilleries and boutique craft beer makers make hand sanitizer. We watch the teaching labs in the universities make hand sanitizers. We saw General Motors plant pivot, retool, and begin to manufacture respirators almost at the drop of a hat. This kind of innovation, this answer to a clarion call for help, is something that we should all cling to and say, this proves how we can mobilize ourselves as a people around any issue. You know, the challenges we face in Calgary with our office markets and our oil and gas business. Well, maybe our approach needs to be, this is an economic crisis for our citizens of Calgary and all of Albertans and many, many Canadians, whether they realize it or not. But maybe innovation is the order of the day. And I don't pretend to have an answer of what we might innovate to, but I'm just so excited to see what people did, how people stepped up as business people, pointed to a need and helped, solved a problem. I don't think we'd be nearly as far along as we were, but for those innovators. That fellow that, you know, used to use Lexon to make a product, pivoted and began to manufacture in almost no time shields that are used in banks and grocery stores, in quick service restaurants and everywhere. We don't know, again, we're not all the way through this yet, what other innovation is going to be required. But I'll tell you, I'm not afraid because there's 4.5 million people who've got my back. So exciting. So exciting.
I agree. I think so too. I've got another spontaneous question for you that it's, again, I'm feeling like I need to ask. You've got the brain that I'm always looking to for advice and guidance. And the question right now is around the downtown space in Calgary. Do you have any ideas that you could do a shout out for all of us Calgarians and to start thinking about what to do with the space that's empty?
Well, you know, I'll offer this, that if you look at the great cities around the world who have been forced to pivot, have been forced to dance on the head of a pin, you'll always see a triad, and that triad is business, education. Sorry, my mind just went blank, and government. Business, education, and government. Oh, that was the wine at dinner last night. So, you know, one of our challenges in Alberta is the way our universities and colleges are funded. They look askance to government, and there's always been a certain amount of tension. At a time like this, government should be focused on improving the funding channels to universities, to colleges, and that is where the innovation is going to come from. That's where we have the youngest workforce in Canada in Calgary and Edmonton. In Calgary in particular, we have a feedstock of office space. We have some of the best universities in this country. We need to have a government that steps up and says, together, let's solve this problem, because no one party, not government, not business, nor education, can do it on their own. No two parties, but that triad. Every single case study out there of a smart city, a great city, has had to innovate their economy. It's been that triad that has been successful.
Yeah.
We just need to start thinking about this differently. We need to be friends in business and in education and government, aligned and friends. So that's a clarion call to our government leaders to step up, help business and help education drive this economy to a new day. They're not going to do it. We're not going to do it without them. Education isn't going to do it without us or them. So let's get together and let's get to work.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Randy.
My pleasure.
That was my amazing friend, Randy Ferguson. Thank you again for joining us for Cat's Track today. And Randy, thank you for your time. I always appreciate hearing from you.
Of course, anytime.
Thank you.